The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday Morning Show, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now, roll tide.
And Mark Cranack.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Welcome to it. We're on the road today here in Kearney. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel back at our Lincoln studios out here for baseball. Big thanks to Elijah and Bill Dolman yesterday, making it rock and roll as always. We're ready to rock and talk for the next couple of hours. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and numbers to get in, 466-3776, 800-825 5865. Just off the interstate here is where we're staying. The American flag waving in the brisk breeze and not far from the interstate. Elijah, a good day of baseball yesterday for Junior and Lincoln Southwest. They played Grand Island, and they got to play at Kearney UNK's baseball field, and the kids performed well, a 10-2 victory. They hook up a little bit later today with West Side, and I think maybe Hastings tonight, and then tomorrow they grapple with McCook. So it's a holiday tournament out here in central Nebraska. We're pretty loaded up. Sam Cook, our conversation with the Ravens Hall of Famer, soon to be Ravens Hall of Famer. He retired late last week, into Thursday or Friday a week ago. And we'll get caught up with Sam. Ahman Green also stopped by, so that's part of the rewind this morning. We'll spend time with Brandon Vogel and Gary Sharp in hour two. Can email the show, Chris at HailVarsity.com. And as always, find us on Twitter. Elijah's Twitter handle at Herbalessence. Chris Schmidt, that is me, at Schmidt_radio. But just a good weekend to remember and to honor those who have served for sure, and spend time with family and loved ones, and a lot of baseball on the docket. Any umping on your radar, Elijah, or are you just going to do the Salt Dogs?
No, I have a junior-senior doubleheader tonight out in, well, I'll digress from saying where it is, outside the capital city.
No, that's all good.
But this will be my second game of the summer, and I took a brutal one off the shin last weekend. So hoping for that it doesn't hit the same spot tonight. I'll take it off the arm. I'll take it off the collarbone, just as long as it stays.
You just don't want the shin.
Yeah.
No touch, as Clark Griswold used to say. So I got the evil eye sneaking out of the room this morning because Junior was snoring, Mama was snoring, and you go to pull that door open, and you know how heavy doors are at your hotel, and we're here at the Crown Hotel, just off the interstate. Had a great time with friends at Cunningham's on the Lake. That's where we've done some Hail Varsity shows when we're out in Kearney before. Both Cunningham's locations, love those folks. But you go open the door and you forget the top bolts there, right? It's got the auto lock, but then you go pull the door. You're trying to be quiet. And I mean, it's like I woke the whole room. You pull again, and I go, oh, no. They both pop up. What the hell's going on? Hey, I didn't mean to wake you. I'm so sorry. It wasn't quite jumping in the pool at midnight with Christy Brinkley.
But it does sound like someone's breaking in your hotel room at 6:30 in the morning.
It scares the heck out of you. But those things, I mean, those things are designed to keep you safe. But nothing can prevent stupidity on my end. So interesting article on PJ Fleck, and we're into the off season. The Hail Varsity yearbook is getting all finished up, and what a resource for team previews. And you look at a guy like PJ Fleck, and I wonder from a villain standpoint, is his personality kind of the personality you think of in the Big Ten when it comes to the coaches you can't stand, this was a fun exercise, right? When you look at the old Big Eight with some of the basketball coaches and personalities, Billy Tubbs, Norm Stewart specifically, or even in the old Big Eight or Big 12 from a football standpoint, Mac Brown always kind of seemed grandfatherly, even though you couldn't stand Texas. Switzer, you loved to hate, or you just couldn't stand because Oklahoma'd break your heart. And then you zoom out a little bit and you get into the Big Ten. I mean, Urban Meyer, right? What do you think of with Urban Meyer? You think of some arrogance, don't you? When you think of Jim Harbaugh, what do you think of? I think of quirky. I mean, the word is Jim's going to be Jim. And you go from the shirtless wrestling in the living room to whole milk to T-bone steak recruiting spiel when he first got back out of the NFL into Michigan, just kind of what kind of a weirdo is coming to my living room. And you kind of trickle on down. I think if you were to ask peers about Scott Frost, I think there's a lot of respect for Frost when it comes to his offensive mind, okay? I think there's also some lessons learned the hard way in the Big Ten with what's been said or assumed about coming into this league if you're Scott Frost. So Nebraska's had to adjust their game, quite frankly, and it's still an ongoing thing. And then we get to P.J. Fleck, and Sam McEwen, World Herald, wrote about Fleck's 7-year extension. Don't kid yourself about Fleck. And he is gracious to us every year at Big Ten Media Days. He sits down with us for about 15 minutes, always dressed to the nines. Has got the tie and quarter zip look tailored to a T on the sideline. And he's the guy that's racing around the sideline. And if he's up on you by 20, it's really annoying in the fourth quarter. The key is to not let him get up by 20 on you in the fourth quarter. My jury is more on the respect dial than the annoyance dial with P.J. Fleck. I think he's a guy that is salivating to get a bigger job. I think he would kill a family member for Notre Dame. and that's probably a lot of coaches, right? Because the money being made right now is obscene. They've earned it because they make such a high dollar amount. They're also fireable at a questionable number. If you're going 500 or better at Minnesota, and Fleck he's cranked out a 9 and an 11 win season. That's really good. That's Glenn Mason good. Okay, you're expected to hit that number more times than not. I think Fleck is probably your most disliked coach in the league by Nebraska fans. And I wonder if you're in that category, or if it's a Ryan Day for you, or if it's a Jim Harbaugh. You know, where you at? Is it Kirk Ferentz? Not just because of the Iowa tie, but because Kirk may just rub you the wrong way. Is it the pig farmer? Is it Bielema? And Coach Allen at Indiana, I mean, he seems like your junior high gym teacher, doesn't he? But he got brought down to earth after a brutal season last year. Elijah, where do you weigh in? I think Fleck is the most polarizing, but I honestly respect the heck out of him. He has developed lines of scrimmage. He has developed running backs. He made an adjustment in 2018 with a defensive coordinator firing and hiring. And Minnesota's been a really good football program, probably your most underrated. I think folks roll their eyes at all the back pats that Coach Fitzgerald gets, but I think he's phenomenal, and I think his personality is pretty genuine.
I mean, with Fleck, if he's at Nebraska, let's be honest, he's one of the most popular guys in the state. It's just the fact that he's at a different school. I mean,
he's beating the hell out of you.
His act gets old, but if he was in Lincoln and he was winning games, everyone would love his act. Everyone would love saying row the boat. So I see both sides to it. I personally am not the biggest fan. I get used car salesman vibes off him. I think we've said that before on the show, and I still get vibes from like PJ Fleck. Man, he'd probably win the Midwestern competition for used car salesman if he were doing used car sales. That's the exact type of guy.
That's not a knock on used car salesman.
No, that's not.
There's some good ones out there.
That's not a knock on used car salesman. That's not a knock on PJ Fleck either. It's just that's the complete.
How genuine is he?
That's just the complete vibe I get off the guy, and he'd probably be great at it because it's the same thing he's doing coaching, but damn it, he wins.
He wins. He's high energy. Got a 7-year deal. Good story by Sam McEwen. Right there. Do we have time to run the Barney clip? Speaking of coaches that folks either can take or leave. Well, interesting sit down with Coach Barnett this week when it comes to Pete Carroll, right? And this was Coach Barnett about Pete and kind of that altercation. Anyway, altercation's too strong a word. A run-in they had at midfield before. And Pete's a guy a lot of folks love, but some folks in the industry really couldn't stand, similar to Fleck.
You know, I've had one incident with a coach, and I had one incident with two incidents with the media guys. And the incident with the coach was I did not call him. Mm-hmm. And then I saw him before the game, and he was really mad because I turned him in for violations. And nobody had ever turned this guy in before. He was above all that. Well, he came out at halftime before the game and just ripped me. And
who was it?
It was Pete Carroll.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah, and so I turned him in long before the game, but. It just so happened by the time we got to that game, we lost our quarterback and had to play a brand new quarterback, and we were going to get killed, and we did, and he made sure of it.
That was in reference to Jimbo and Saban. You know, what's the unwritten rules of coaching? If you got a problem with somebody, do you call them before you kill them? And, Barney had enough of Pete's creative math at USC. And boy, oh boy, did USC get creative pre-NIL. Well, we're off here at Kearney. Baseball tonight for Junior and Lincoln Southwest, the REMAX team. We are going to take a quick timeout here on the weekend edition, Hail Varsity Radio. And the Rewind coming up, we'll hear from Sam Koch, great punter for the Ravens, incredible performer for Nebraska, Sam's retirement and new role with the Ravens. We caught up with Sam. Ahman Green also day-by-day debuted in Omaha last night, weekend showings this holiday weekend. So we spent some time with Ahman Green. We'll continue on Hour 1 Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Hello, listener. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price of $29.99. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Now back with Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery, with Chris Schmidt and Mark Cranick.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. We welcome in. He just retired, and we're catching him day one. Sam, do you have an office, bud? Sam Koch is with us. Do you have an office? Do you have an area? Tell us what this new role is.
Well, this new role is a special teams consultant with the Ravens. As far as a new office, I think it's just in the janitor closet right now. So we're working our way up. Just working out with the maintenance guys and doing those things. But no, it's going good. Just kind of start working out with Jordan Stout and trying to get things going with him and working on fundamentals, the techniques of punting, and just trying to learn the whole process of what it's like being a coach here at the Baltimore Ravens. So super exciting, super excited to be a part of this organization, or continue to be a part of this organization and everything it involves.
Sam Koch with us. Sam, this entire state is always, it's always been proud of you, but super happy for just the way your career has gone. You know how Nebraska fans are with Huskers in the NFL, man, and it was just a pleasure to watch you as we blink for 16 years. Take me back to Thursday and how you dealt with the emotions.
Yeah, it was a very emotional day. It was one of those things, kind of from the beginning. Sports was all I knew, and that's the only thing I ever wanted to do growing up. And so there was a lot of emotions from that, because I, in essence, kind of took that away from myself. It was something that I felt comfortable with my decision, but just realizing that, I no longer get to play that kid's game anymore it was very hard, because, like I'd mentioned, it was the only thing I ever wanted to do growing up. And I had the opportunity to do that at the highest level in football, and be a part of such a great teammates, great coaches, great organization, was just truly remarkable and emotional, and everything that went with it. Had the opportunity to have some Coach Downing, Scott Downing, Bill Bush, some of my former coaches here to be a part of that, along with some good friends and family that was here as well. And so excited for the next chapter, excited to see how this all goes.
Sam Koch is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Sam, the feedback on social media, the NFL circles around Nebraska, it was truly your day, and you're a guy that is a just focused worker, man. You perfected your craft for a number of years. Was it tough for you to accept the adulation, the fanfare?
Well, being in Nebraska, being in Baltimore, like, our fans are amazing. Mm-hmm. And so, no, it wasn't really tough. Mm-hmm. Fans are just exceptional. The way they handle everything from that to our game days, and they're so appreciative of everything that these guys give. And I couldn't be happier. Just having the support that I did with the fans and family and everybody that was involved. It's remarkable to see how much I meant to them. And in hindsight, looking at it, as you're going through it, you never think, they probably just think, take me for granted. But when it's all said and done, there was a lot of love and understanding in what I did.
Sam, let's talk about your career, and not only from Nebraska to Baltimore, but just overall from high school to where you just ended this finish line, at least your playing days. And because, correct me, out of high school, didn't you play linebacker and wide receiver? You also kicked, yes, but you came into Nebraska as an athlete, correct?
Correct. Yeah. In high school, I played. I actually started off as a guard, and then played. Throughout my years there, played guard, tackle, center, and then I did some tight end in certain formations, along with fullback and upback, and then did linebacker and the punting and kicking duties. And at that time, you basically played the whole game. Mm-hmm. You played both sides of the ball, and then special teams, and it was a great time. And that's where I learned the love of football, had the opportunity to play many positions, many skill positions. And from there, I got drafted, or not drafted, but asked to walk on to Nebraska as a linebacker, punter / kicker. And the whole point was to come in the first year, see how I like the punting and kicking it, if I'd like to jump into linebacker, I could do that during spring ball. But throughout that whole year, just fell in love with punting and kicking and enamored in trying to figure it out and be so consistent. And it just kind of led me to my career 21 years later.
So, Sam, fair to say you brought a linebacker mentality to the NFL as a punter?
I guess you could say that. Yeah. I mean, I loved hitting, loved the physical aspect of the game, and, being able to hit a few returners early on in my career was very enjoyable.
So did you let him know, or were you just kind of that quiet assassin?
I was always just very quiet, just went in, did my job, and went home.
Well, Sam, you look at your teammates' response, and there's so many. Tell Nebraska fans, if they're not familiar, about your special teams crew, about the Wolfpack, Morgan Cox specifically. I was reading a story. It's his first game in the NFL. He's your long snapper, and he's shortened the snaps back to you. So is it true you wound up and threw him a fastball and hit him on the back of the head?
Yeah, it's very true. I'm one of those guys, when you get on that field, I don't know if I'm very proud of it, but
it's
I know
all right.
Our relationship grew pretty strong that day. But I'm one of those people, when I hit that field, I become a different person. I'm all about just doing what's right to help our team win, doing what's right to help our individual goals, help us achieve those individual goals, doing everything I can to make us better. And then once I get off that field, I'll be your friend, for the rest of the day. But I'm a different animal when I hit that field, and it's always trying to do whatever I can to be the best I can for that day, along with everybody around me.
Well, you brought a professionalism. Sam Koch, couple minutes with us here. Hail Varsity Radio is on the consulting side of things now with the Baltimore Ravens, 16 years with the Ravens, Pro Bowl punter, no doubt going to be in the Ravens Ring of Honor, and I would be surprised if you don't get a look by Canton, Sam, for what you did. And you have the art and the perception of punters that, there's the kickers and then there's the rest of the team. But, Sam, you go to a man with your teammates in Baltimore, be it the Ed Reeds, Ray Lewis's, Coach Harbaugh. I mean, there was Sam's a dude, I guess is the best way to put it in glowing terms with how you were treated. You weren't treated like a kicker. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And what
absolutely.
What was that like for you? I mean, you've always been kind of one of the guys, but there's this, I don't want to call it a stigma, but there's this perception about punters around the NFL. And it's always kind of a joke. I mean, and it's not, but the kickers, the commentators, the punters or the field goal kickers are the butt of the joke, but how important they are, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, everybody wants to be us during the week, but they never want to be us on Sundays. And so they're always thankful when they're always thankful when it comes to Sunday and we do our job, because they're extremely happy. If we don't do our job, then obviously we're the butt of all jokes, But you always hear the old linemen coming up, as we're in the locker rooms or getting ready for practice. Like, man, it must be nice, but they surely don't want to be us on Sundays. So we have a mutual feeling, a mutual respect between all of us here at the Ravens, and the way they approach us is like one of the guys. Mm-hmm. And you got to love everybody here for that. I mean, they understand how important we take our jobs, even though it may not be as physically demanding. It's equally mentally demanding. And so I think a lot of guys understand that and understand where we come from, and they enjoy our attitude about that.
Sam Koch's with us. Sam, it's rare in professional sports, or it can be rare, that things end on great terms. and that's what's happened with you in Baltimore. They gave you a heads up that they were going to go draft another punter. You're in it even post, career. Now, when it comes to consulting, you're ready to help the team because you're a giver. You're not selfish. You've never been selfish.
Correct.
What was the conversation like to step away? And did they have to talk you into it, or were you ready? I know you said Thursday you're at peace, but you can still ball, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Correct. Yeah, obviously make it clear. I feel like I can go out there and still punt, another 3-4 years. But however, this was a conversation that I had with Coach Harbaugh, all of our special teams coaches, Chris and Randy Brown, even Jerry Rosberg, along with Eric DaCosta, and had these conversations with my wife too. And so it was one of the things that we had discussed, do I want to, look at possibly playing somewhere else? And I just honestly couldn't see myself being with any other organization, nor spending that much time away from my family. And I think that was what led to the ultimate decision was, yes, can I go play? Yes. Would it be nice to make a little bit more money? It's not, to me, it's not about the money. It's being able to be with my family and also have the opportunity to help out an organization that gave me so much. And then, help out the next guy in line, the next man up, as we say in the NFL, and give him the platform and the foundation to go out there and succeed, which is what coaching is all about. And I'm going to enjoy that. And already just this morning, we started working with Jordan. So I look forward to going out there on that practice field and helping him in every way that I can. And so with all that, I'm just very appreciative of where I'm at and how things are going and how they handled the whole situation. And so, yes, I'm completely at peace with my decision, and I just look forward to the next chapter of my life.
Sam Koch with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Sam, you said you got to see Coach Downing and Coach Bush. What was that moment like for you?
It was great seeing them. When I come back to Nebraska, usually once a year, I'll go down to the university and be able to see Bill Bush. But Coach Downing, hadn't seen him in a while, and it just brought back many memories of us being at Nebraska during college and enjoying those times. So we got to catch up a little bit, and it's just great to see those guys and have them be a part of such a special day.
Is there a moment in your career that's kind of burned into your memory? A big moment, a tense moment? You were a part of a lot of last-minute wins or moments when it comes to special teams, defense, a little offense, and special teams, and that was the formula that has made Baltimore such a really good football team.
Correct. I mean, there's so many experiences and times on that field that I remember. I mean, obviously the Super Bowl is the most important. That's one that we'll always look back on, and being able to, as you're growing up, you're thinking, man, if only I could be. Or actually, I always kind of role played when I was a kid. Man, I'm in Super Bowl. I was always role played as a quarterback rather than a punter and a kicker, but it's all the same. And then having the opportunity to play on the biggest stage in front of 100 and some million fans or whatever, it's one of those feelings and times that you'll never forget. And to be able to hoist the Lombardi and to get that Super Bowl ring, it's just remarkable to be a part of. And there's other experiences and other times throughout my career with Ray Lewis retiring and being part of such great Ravens and great NFL players and iconic players, for that matter. And being able to share the field with them it was a lot of fun.
Sam, so I know you're into steaks, right? You got your own butcher thing set up in just kind of west of Lincoln. You also like working on trucks. And when we've talked in the past, you were painting ballroom your ballroom stools. So there's other. You keep busy on top of what you're planning to do consulting. So what's on the next to-do list for you when it comes to hobbies?
Oh man, well I guess what not. I'm always tinkering with something, and I guess that's the Nebraska in me. So right now I just need to get my I got a Chevy 85 Chevy K20 that I'm working on with my son. I ended up taking a few steps back, tore out all the electrical, tore the front axle out. So we got to work on that, get that thing back up and running, and get it to a place where we can go drive it. So that'll probably be my next project I'm focusing solely on.
Well, you could also do the cooking and the grilling show. You've done a couple of cameos, I think, as well. So, man, you're going to be busy. And hey, Sam, best to you. Congratulations to your career, your success, and your new chapter as a consultant. And really happy for you, man. And thanks for all the time you've always given us. And we'll be in touch again.
Chris, I appreciate you having me. Always enjoy being on here with you. And yes, I look forward to speaking with you guys again.
Hello, listener. This is Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price of $29.99. That means that you, for less than $20, get everything we produce: 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Early to rise with Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Here's Chris Schmidt and Mark Cranack.
Oh, good.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Welcome in Green Bay Packer Hall of Famer, Husker Hall of Famer, standout with the Big Red, and a couple of national title rings. Ahman Green with this big part of Day by Day that'll be in Omaha. Coming up here this holiday weekend, the Granary District, 7 p.m. Friday. DayByDayMovie.com is where you go to get your movie tickets. Ahman, it's been a while. Nice to spend time with you. Thanks for taking the phone call.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, appreciate you jumping on. And Ahman, I look back to your time at Nebraska. What was it like for you to be an incoming freshman with that 95 team?
It was me, just taking in what the guys that did the previous year. And my goal was to come in and try to help the team any way, shape, and size I could. And I remember during training camp and right at the end of training camp where Coach Solis set me down in the running backs room. He asked me, did I want a red shirt? And I pretty much said to him right away, no, I don't. I said, I want to play my freshman year. I know I'm the team out. And that was because how the teammates around me, Lawrence Phillips, Damon Benny, Jason, Clinton Childs, and then guys on defense, Christian, Phil Ellis, Doug, Mike Minner, those guys, Tony Veland. Basically, they beat me up, but that beating me up got me ready to play. It gave me the confidence of what I knew, because they would tell me, they'll tell me, they would beat me up and they say, hey, then the next day, oh man, freshman, good job. The way you ran that ball today, that's how you run the ball. That's how you become part of offense. Lawrence, and that's all I needed to hear. So I knew I was doing the right things coming in. And then from that point is just continue to play and practice, obviously hit the books the way I needed to be a part of this team and a part of that offense in that year.
Ahman Green with us, Hail Varsity Radio, head coach, gamer, host, and just an incredible NFL career. Ahman, who took you under their wing as a freshman?
Yes. Oh, who took me under?
Yeah.
He did.
What you cut out, Ahman? Who start over for me, bud? Who took you under their wing? Who helped you get acclimated in that running back room?
Oh yeah, so the person that took me under their wing was Lawrence Phillips right away. On the day summer workout started for the freshman class of '95, he pretty much grabbed me in the weight room and said, "Freshman, you're working out with me. This is what we're gonna do this together on these days. We're gonna sprint. We do wind sprints and we do the conditioning outside on the field." you run next to me. And when I'm out here, make sure you do that. And so I don't have to come look for you. I'm like, no problem, done. And so that's when our friendship, our teammate relationship basically started to grow from there. And I knew his work ethic, and I know what he did on the field because I watched him the previous years as a high school senior and junior at Central, sophomore at North. So just knowing his ability, knowing what he could do, I'm like definitely gracious and happy that he's basically taking the time to reach out to me and say, hey, this is what I could do. I want to push you. I want you to push me, so we can go out here and basically be the best of the best, make each other better out here on the football field.
Ahman Green's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, day-by-day movie in Omaha. This weekend, the Granary District, 7 o'clock Friday, daybydaymovie.com is where you log on to get your movie tickets if you're headed up to the Metro. Did that shock you to have somebody of LP's stature willing to extend an olive branch to somebody that wanted his job?
No, it wasn't a surprise. It was more, it wasn't a shock. It was more like a subtle surprise because I've been watching it for years. And when you're a fan of somebody like Omar, like Tommy, like a Christian Peter, Jason Peter, Grant Western, and then now you're standing next to them, you're standing them in person, hanging out with them at the training table, and they're just like you. They just want to work hard. They want to win a lot of football games, and they're going to do whatever they need to do or we need to do to win those games. And so now it's like, man, we got the same mindset. I want to win. I want to help this team continue to win. They beat Miami this previous year. Now I want to be a part of the team that beats the next team in the national title game, come the end of the football season in 1995, going into 1996. So to see that we're all like-minded on the same page and had the same in front of us, that was just a breath of fresh air for myself.
Ahman, you got thrust into the starting position and you delivered, still a freshman record rushing. How did you prepare for that? How did Coach Solich get you ready?
When my mom and dad taught me, we did it real quick where it was short-term goals, long-term goals, or short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Short-term goals was that you did every day, like wake up on time, you already practice hard. Is a midterm goal is pass the test at the end of the school year to graduate and things of that nature. But then my long-term goal was to whatever college I went to, help that team win a title and then obviously graduate my college degree. And that basically came in, started into fruition once I became a freshman in training camp in the summer of 1990. But it just was those guys, like I said, like-minded people working together. Coach Osborne, the coaching staff, motivating us, and Coach Solich, helped out where giving me the confidence to go out there and play. Because I remember my freshman year going into the state game, I was really anxious. I was really nervous before a game. It was on Thursday night football and Thursday night ESPN football. And I know everybody literally in the world is going to be watching us play. And I'm like, okay, what I'm going to do? Don't mess up. Am I going to fumble? And, so I got all these thoughts running through my head. And we watched our last set of film the night before. And I'm walking out the meeting room, and I say to Coach Solich, I said, Coach, I'm nervous. What can I do to kind of calm myself down? He said, well, don't worry about it. Being nervous right now is just your body kind of telling you, your body and your mind telling you you're ready to play. Because you're thinking, what are you thinking about? It's like, I'm thinking about the game tomorrow. He's like, exactly. He said, that's what you should be thinking about. So your body tells you you're ready to do this, or you becoming aware of what you need to do when the moment comes. And so when he said that, it just helped me relax a little bit more, actually calmed me down a lot so I could sleep better through the night. I had a really sleepless, a sleepful night that night. And once I got in the game, it was just like he said, I was calm. I knew the play. I think my first carry was a 20-yard run down the sidelines, and I got pushed out of bounds. And then later on in the third, fourth quarter, I scored a touchdown. My first touchdown in my first college football game was something I never even thought of. To happen like that was just – it just gave me that confidence to keep working hard and doing what I was doing, that I was on the right path that I wanted to be on to help this team win a national title.
How hard a lesson, I guess, was the Arizona State game for the team?
That Arizona State game in 1996, that was a game that basically said two things to us as players, as a team, that, you got to play through hard moments and you got to keep focused. And if you get off that focus, it's going to be even harder to play and try to win. And then also, not that we didn't respect our opponent, but definitely never take an opponent lightly, because any given moment, any given game, that's why we play football. So the game that everybody thought we were going to win, we ended up getting, we had scored nothing, and we got beat 19-0 in Sun Devil Stadium. So it was just an eye opener. And then from that point on, we had the motivation. We found our focus because we were just a little rattled. I say going into the game, but then also in the game, definitely rattled. But we were able to get things, I say, lined up and finish the rest of the season, even though we still stumbled in losing in the first Big 12 championship to Texas Longhorns. But we were able to. That was kind of our springboard into the '97 season.
Was there a doubt at all in your mind that 97 would end the way it did?
No, there was no doubt. I knew it was going to be different because that motivation to the Longhorns, that for every player, I wasn't even on that trip. So I took it more personal myself than any other player. Those guys played on the field. They physically felt the pain because in that game they got beat up and they got hurt, or they were playing through, guys had the flu and all that stuff going on, but I'm sitting at home with a broke foot, and so I can't even be there with my teammates in a loss because, like I said, I'm a team player. So even in a loss, I'm going to be next to my players. I want to do that same effort, win or lose, and I'm not even there. I'm back home in Omaha watching the game on TV and just like shaking my head like, man, I wish I was there. But going to Miami, playing against Virginia Tech, getting my foot healed up, all the motivation I needed, and then for all of us, some of us, to be honest, we didn't even want to play Virginia Tech. We wanted to play, I think it was Florida State for the national title, or Florida again for the national title in that game, because we knew we were better than what we were. We know these two losses, the loss against Sun Devils in their stadium and then the loss against Longhorns in the Big 12 championship, was the two deciding games that put us in our situation. But we understood that, and now we just had to put it past us and look forward to put over us through that whole season.
Ahman Green with us. Ahman, you've had a couple of interesting moments in your career with Tommy Frazier and then Scott Frost, going from Frazier to Frost and also going from Favre to Aaron Rodgers. What was that like for you as the primary ball carrier on both teams?
Oh, man, it was amazing. I'm very, I say fortunate, I say lucky, because I never thought I would have a chance to. Obviously, once I met Tommy right away, and then he's being the commander in that huddle, someone shouting plays at me, making sure that I know my plays, and if I know, but he said, don't even think. You tell me don't think. Sometimes you just play, because you wouldn't be in this huddle. If you didn't do the things you did, in high school or during training camp, you wouldn't be in this huddle. So you're supposed to be here. So when I give you a play, run it like you've been running it. He would, give me that type of little talks in the huddle. It'd be quick. It was over, but then I would have that confidence to go and get out of my own way mentally, because I'm barely 18. Mm-hmm. I'm playing on the national title team, this #1 team in the country. So yes, it's 100. Like I said, 100 thoughts running through my head. Don't mess up. Don't do this and that. But he's like, stop thinking, just play and keep up with me. Don't because I'm gonna run as fast as I'm gonna run. So you better keep up with me. I was like, no problem, Tommy. So that just helped me, because it was just he trusted me. Just like the coaches trusted me to be on the football field in that huddle. And then switch it over a couple years later, or the next year, to Scott. It was now I was kind of, not that I had leadership over Scott. I had been on the field, I had been starting as a freshman, so I just had that experience a little bit more than Scott did. So I kind of helped him, right during and after that Arizona State game. We had miscommunication we had a couple bad pitches here and there. So I just had that conversation just like Tommy had with me. It was like, hey, when you pitch the ball, just make sure you don't double clutch it, or if you're going to run with it, just run with it. I'm going to play off of you. That's how the option works. And I think me saying that to him, knowing that, I'm not mad. It happens. We play games, we lose games, we do it as a team. So I'm doing this. I'm telling you, I still got your back. You're going to need me. I'm going to need you. So this is what we need to do together. And I hope that was the conversation that helped him build his confidence as a quarterback coming after Tommy Frazier, because as we know, that was no easy task, as we know what Tommy did this year's in Lincoln. So to have Scott coming in, be the first quarterback after a guy like Tommy, wasn't easy. He took a lot of flack for the media because he went to Stanford and he came back. So it was all that, I'm pretty sure weighing on him. So him coming back to do what he did as a quarterback starting my sophomore year, his junior year, and then the next year as well, just something that we pretty much grew together in that backfield. For me in Green Bay, like I said, just being a fan of the team and then knowing of Brett, and then finally getting there, finding out what type of player he is, what type of person he is, the type of teammate he is. that it was like, wow, I get to do this. So the cool part was he's just a farm boy that likes to hunt and talk about his grass, and play practical jokes on people. And then he can throw the ball very hard. So I'm like, the good thing is I'm not a wide receiver, so he doesn't have to throw the ball hard to me. He can just flip it to me here and there on short passes. So that was the one good thing I didn't have to worry about with Brett, because I didn't want no broken fingers at that time. But the switch to him to Aaron, and then really don't forget my senior, when I was a rookie in Seattle, I had Warren Moon.
Oh, wow.
My rookie year.
That's right.
So having him too, another guy who I idolized, watching him play ball when he was with the Oilers, and then once I get to Seattle, he's there. So having Warren, having Brett, and then on to Aaron, I knew right away the day we drafted him, just because of his process of what he started with, knowing that he slipped to the 24th pick, and everybody says, that's not a big deal. He still went first round. But as a player, when you're told one thing and then another thing happens, that is what is going to bother you. That's what is going to upset you. That's what's going to, bring that chip on your shoulder to grow. That's what happened with me. I was told I would go late first round, and I went third round. So I knew right away with Aaron dropping to the 24th pick for the Packers in the 2005 draft, I knew right away this kid was going to come in with a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to, he was going to possibly, come in and fill the shoes and surpass what Brett did his career playing it as a quarterback in the NFL and as a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, which we know is not no easy task. But he did it. He's been doing it. He's still doing it today. So I'm happy for him. And it was just, I say for me, great moment to be able to play with all those quarterbacks throughout my career.
Ahman Green with us. Ahman, last thought, and thanks so much for taking time to promote Day by Day. Excited to see your feature part in it. And, of course, Nebraska fans anxious to see Remembering the Dominance, The Rise, Part 1 of the documentary, Omaha this weekend. DayByDayMovie.com is where you go to get your tickets, the Granary District where it's going to be shown. So is there an all-time classic Favre prank you can tell us about?
Yeah, I got several, but one for sure, and this one goes in the category of myself not being a hunter. So I'm not traditionally I never was a hunter. I've been hunting a few times since the prank. Before the prank, never had been hunting. Oh, no. So for your hunters out there, you're gonna like this prank. So it was my second year. It was 2001 season. I became the starter. It's about week 5 or 6. We're having an okay year. We went the first month. We were like 1-2, and we won a few games after that. So we're kind of back on the winning path. And I come to my locker on a Wednesday, and my jersey smells kind of funny. It smells kind of like mildew. And I'm like, okay, maybe the equipment guys didn't wash it last night, and they just didn't put it in the dryer at the right time or whatever. So I go kind of tease them a little bit, have some fun. Brett and T-Bone and Nelly. I'm like, what y'all doing? Did you forget the detergent or the bounce, fabric softener? And, then I go to practice, and not thinking nothing of it. And then I was Wednesday, Thursday, same thing. It smelled like mildew. And I'm like, these guys are really they're missing it. But for me, it's just like nothing. They're like, all right, they just have, maybe just the washer broke down or the dryer's not working, what have you. So again, then Friday, I'm sitting in my locker, about to go to practice, but Doug Peterson, that was our backup quarterback at that time, walks up to me. He says, Ahman, has your jersey smelled like mildew the last couple of days? I'm like, yeah, it sure has. That's like, I've just been giving Red and Nelly and guys a bad time just because it seemed like they forgot how to use the washer and dryer. He's like, no, it's not them. That's not what it is. He said, do you hunt? Have you been hunting? I said, no, I haven't. I'm like, what's up? He said, well, when the hunter goes hunting, they bring dry doe urine to put in the stand and sprinkle it around the stand to attract the deer to the blind. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, this is deer pee? and then he said, yeah, Brett did it to me, Craig Nall, and I think he did Donald too, a few other players as a joke. And I'm like, wow. I was like, well, I hope he really likes me because he still has me the ball and throws me the ball from time to time.
Wow. So did you get him back?
No, I still owe him, so that's going to happen one day.
I like it. Ahman, best to you. Thanks for a few minutes today.
Hey, no, thanks for having me. I love telling the stories to everybody. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Pardon the interruption, but I'd like to save you some money. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity, and I wanted to offer listeners of this podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20 can get everything we produce. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday morning show, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now, roll tide.
And Mark Cranack.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Welcome to it. It's hour two. It's Hail Varsity Radio Weekend Road Show here in Kearney, and we've got lots of little ones cranking around the lobby. There's a water park here at this hotel, and they're out in full force already, man. Proud of the many parents that are up before 8 a.m. on a Saturday. We've got floaties and rafts and towels in hand. We welcome in Brandon Vogel, managing editor with HailVarsity.com and magazine. Elijah Herbel back at our Lincoln studios. Vogues, I love the shot, man. I love the shot when we do StreamYard. Find us this morning on ESPN Lincoln Twitter or ESPN Lincoln's Facebook. But the Vogues, the classic shot behind you of the bookshelf, the home office, man. I mean, it is Shefty-esque, brother. Or I should say Shefty's normal shot is Brandon Vogel-esque.
Well, thank you. Got my reference, my college football reference materials behind me. So those are always important. I do actually use all of these books. So they're not just for show.
They're not for show.
No, they're real. They have pages in them and everything.
They're pretty good. Well, if you haven't seen or subscribed, do so. Hail Varsity magazine, hailvarsity.com. Great bundle option, yearbook in progress for another season. And Vogues, you did a little, I guess, TV cameo, my friend. I saw on some of the different social media channels talking about the yearbook. Let's start there. There's a list of things we need to get into, a checklist we'll hit on this morning. But you know what? Every year's fun, every year's intriguing, but this year's huge. And there's been about, dare I say, 3 or 4 mile marker years in the last decade. We've been covering this thing with different staffs, and I think we're at a mile marker for 2022, and I know that insight and analysis will be reflected with the upcoming season preview.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's an interesting season because, like, you know, the pressure to win at Nebraska is always there and will forever always be there. But you really feel it this year, and with the terms of how that, you know, the contract restructuring went, like, you even kind of have a hard date on it. Not that I think, you know, Nebraska needs to be here and not here on August 1st or on October 1st, and that's it. But I mean, the timing of that date is certainly interesting and adds a little even extra to you know, just kind of the tension around this season.
Tension's a good word. Tension can be horrible, can be crushing. Tension can be absolutely revealing in a positive, where you overcome and you break through. You burst or snap that tension, and that's what I'm interested in. You look at some of the different newcomers, and I know that countdown has begun on HailVarsity.com. And the 15 through 13, Steve Marek, great dude, part of our team at Hail Varsity, putting out the rundown. I think when we look at Chubba Purdy, I want to start with him. I'm really excited to see how, A, healthy his summer is, but B, what can happen with him. I'm all in on Thompson, proven, big game performer. Chubba, if that dude can stay healthy, man, I think Whipple really loves what he got in him. If he's rushed into service this year or wins the job, great. But from a long-term standpoint, man, he looks like a really nice prospect and project for Whipple.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, with Whipple goes back to being recruited out of high school. Reading Steve's countdown of the new additions for Nebraska, I haven't gone back and watched it yet. I need to make a point to go back and watch that NC State game that Purdy had as a true freshman, because just reading his numbers, I hadn't thought of them in a while. Like, looked like a pretty impressive performance for a true freshman, making his first start against the ACC team that has put a ton of guys in the league lately, especially on defense. So I played pretty well in that NC State game. I think we have a pretty good idea that Thompson probably has first crack at this. That said, I don't know how settled that is going into summer workouts and then when we get to fall camp. I mean, I think Casey Thompson will get every chance to be your starter, but I think those other guys will get a chance too to make their own case.
Brandon Vogel's with us here on the Saturday morning edition of Hail Varsity Radio. And Brandon, I think Chubba Purdy probably tops the list of the people that of the transfers. You're not expecting them to play this season, but I think there's a couple guys among the transfers that I've gotten a little bit unheralded. I think of guys like Tommy Hill, Omar Brown, the wide receiver Garcia, Castaneda. I mean, there's a couple guys that have been brought in that, while they had some fanfare when they came in here, they've flown under the radar since their arrival. Are you expecting any of those guys that I've listed to get playtime here in 2022, or should we focus on the guys that have come with a little more fanfare, the O'Shawn Mathis types, the Stephon Wynn types?
Yeah, I think two of the guys you mentioned, I do expect to play. Talking through Steve as he was, Steve's really meticulous about, not just putting out a list and ranking these, but putting the time in to think about who goes where and why. And two of the biggest questions we had were with Omar Brown and Garcia Castaneda, and it's hard to know how they fit because they were injured in the spring. But for me, I love a transfer who was a proven performer at the FCS level, which Brown was. Garcia Castaneda, I think, is best case scenario in 2022. He probably has the Kanawai Noah type of season, which I don't think he's going to be Nebraska's top line guy, but he's the guy you're going to notice on Saturday. I think assuming he gets back to full health.
Brandon Vogel's with us. Find him on Twitter at Brandon L. Vogel, managing editor, HailVarsity.com and magazine. His book with John Cook, Dream Like a Champion. Vogue's story out of the World Herald from Sam McEwen reporting on PJ Fleck's contract extension. We kind of kicked things off as far as reputations and coaches you love to maybe dislike, right? Be it the Big Eight crew of sit-down Norm or Billy Tubbs, right? Some of us are in that Roy Williams camp from back in the day at Kansas, or even get into the Big Eight, and maybe some of you weren't or aren't McCartney or Switzer fans, and Texas and Mac Brown or even John Makovic, right? That'll make you put a little something extra in your coffee just to calm the nerves. Well, PJ Fleck has there's that Fleck effect, right? That is very real for Nebraska fans, very real for former people that are part of the Minnesota program and then around the league. If you were to look at the old Fleck meter, and on one side of it is can't stand this dude. I'd buy a vehicle from him and all four tires would fall off once I leave the lot. Or how's he do this? Wow, he's really good despite his personality. Are you more of the annoyed side of this ledger, or are you the respect side when it comes to Fleck when you dive into him?
Yeah, I'm pretty firmly in the respect side with Fleck. it's hard. It's hard for me not to be with his results. I think the row the boat piece of it can be a little bit corny, but stuff like that works, and it certainly worked for him. And it's an indication to me that Minnesota and Western Michigan before that, they were built on something. They weren't just, we got to go win games. It was, here's how we're going to do it. That said, the one thing that annoys me most about Fleck is putting an oar on Minnesota's helmets. That's too far for me. Like, I'm fine with the boat. It works for them. Talk about it all you want in the locker room and weight room and put it all over everything. You can't put it on the helmet. Like, that's like a personal logo on the helmet. I mean, you put a Notre Dame, or are you going to put an oar on your old helmets just because it's your state? So that's one that bothers me a little bit, because that's where you can really see, like, okay, what I'm doing is going even ahead of Minnesota, which has a pretty proud tradition.
What do you think, when push comes to shove, what has Fleck's plan been? Because he was really the first to purge a roster, and boy did he do it. He's also the first to win with only 33 guys during COVID. Probably the only guy ever to win with 33 guys during COVID. And he has a stable of running backs. Mo Ibrahim's incredible. Achilles injury against Ohio State. No big deal. By the end of the season, I'll figure out some guy that's on the sixth team, and we'll still win 9. We'll still either beat Iowa or we'll still either beat Wisconsin and Nebraska. Yeah, I'm good with going 3-0 against them. The last few years, they lost in 18, but you get my point.
Yeah. I mean, their amount of running back talent, when you step back and look at it, I mean, one of the guys who transferred this offseason because he was basically blocked. He got 3 studs, ahead of him, coming off injury, still ahead of him, went to Oregon. So that was probably their 4th best back. You look at that Wisconsin game, which at that point they'd lost those 3 backs. Well, what do? They go out and throw for 12 yards a pass against Wisconsin. Like, nobody did that against Wisconsin. Nebraska went for 10 yards a pass in its, weird game against the Badgers last year, and ended up costing Wisconsin a shot at the title. So, in terms of how he built this and why row the boat works to whatever degree I think it does, is I think it gives those guys, like, there's a very clear sense of what they're about. Like, this is who we are. This is why we do what we do. And if you don't have that from someplace, you don't have to have a catchy slogan, or you don't have to put an oar on a helmet to do that. But you got to have something that says, here's why we do what we do. Because if you don't, then you're just kind of out there playing games, and it's tough to win consistently that way.
Brandon, we've had the catchphrase, as you said, the row the boat. Tell me, if you could make a catchphrase of Scott Frost's first 4 years at Nebraska based on either what he said or just the catchphrase that you'd put around this team, what would Brandon Vogel's catchphrase be?
Let's see. Well, we know it's not pound the rock. That was quickly discarded. Left hilariously outside the practice facility. It might be hold on to the ball. And I'm not just talking fumbles, though that might be, you certainly got to address that part of it. But you look at this offense, they've shown they can go up and down the field pretty good a lot of the time. The one thing it hasn't felt, and I wrote about this, last fall, and we'll see if it changes this fall, is it never really feels like the offense is in control of the game. And you don't have to be Army or Navy or an option team that, possesses the ball for 38 minutes to do that. But you do have to do a couple of specific things. And some of that is success in the red zone. Some of that's a little bit getting some better starting field position, which tracks to special teams as well. So hold on to the ball, both literally and metaphorically, might be what I'd go with at this stage.
I'm going to say pop the balloon. I mean, just give me pop the balloon. You can use that as a big play downfield. You can get into the end zone, Vogues. You can light up a ball carrier or receiver. There's many different things you can attach Pop the Balloon to.
Yeah, I agree, and I like it because we're going to need to have metaphorical balloons this year because there will be no actual balloons. So I could be convinced.
Okay, I'm going to dive into the food side of things. We're in Kearney. Junior sadly just watched last night, but he did save a run because he was warming up in the bullpen, and he uncorked a Ricky Vaughn special that just hopped the bullpen catcher and trickled onto the field of play from the bullpen. And the ump had to come out from behind home plate and yell, time, dead ball here, and it saved a wild pitch from the reliever on the mound for Southwest or for Remax, and everyone's got, it was a dead ball. Everyone's got to go back to third and second. So even though he didn't get in the ball game last night, he saved his team.
Well, I'm just sitting here imagining the coach say, all right, head off to the bullpen. If you see anything go awry on the field, just chuck that thing over the fence.
No, I mean, he was warming up long enough that he threw a game. So long and short, we went out for pizza and wings last night, and so a Reuben pizza, Vogues. Have you made one? Would you order one?
I have not made one. I would probably try it. I like Reubens. I'm not a huge fan of the dressing, but everything else on the Reuben, I am here for. So I'd probably be intrigued. I occasionally like if it's a good cheeseburger pizza, like just for a change of pace. I'll go that route and get some pickle and mustard on there. So I'm not fundamentally opposed to it every once in a while. So maybe one out of every 15 pizzas you can go and do something crazy.
See, my specialty of choice is to go with the breakfast pizza, the sausage, the eggs, the cheese. That's what I'll go for, Brandon. And I think breakfast pizza pretty universally liked. Something that's not pineapple on pizza. What's your take?
I'm fine with the Hawaiian pizza. I know it's one of our most divisive issues. So that's another one. That's probably another 1 in 15 for me. So I don't love it, but if there's Hawaiian pizza, I'll have a slice.
The Reuben pizza thin crust was dynamite. Enough sauerkraut, enough corned beef. The sauce wasn't overpowering. I'm totally with you on the cheeseburger pizza. Our boys at Lazari's do an undefeated one, and it's incredible. I've got to twist their arm to make it for me. because it's kind of a seasonal special deal. And, I'm high maintenance. The last part is I had some Jameson wings last night. So they were fried and then smoked, and I'm not sure what order, but the Jameson on the outside had a little kick, but it wasn't overpowering. And I worked to try and get a point in the right direction on how to try and make those at home, to no avail. Have you ever used whiskey or anything of the sort for your wing manufacturing, my friend?
Maybe not to the degree that seems like you're talking about there. I mean, I've done bourbon barbecue sauces if I want to do some barbecue wings. Had that. I know I haven't had the opportunity to try them yet, but I believe there's a Jameson caramel wing on the menu at the Hail Varsity Club in Omaha. Ooh. So those seem to be an early favorite. So I'm excited to get the chance to try those. I just haven't had the opportunity yet.
Well, we will be up there June 23rd for the yearbook release party. Excited for that. Brandon Vogel. Vogues, let's end it on the yearbook, my friend, and some of the specials and features, and, of course, no time like right now to become a member of Hail Varsity.
Yeah, so subscribe by June 6th. If you're not already a subscriber, that guarantees you get your yearbook basically as soon as it's available. It's it is our biggest magazine of the year. Chris referenced my award-winning video pitch that you can find out there if you'd like. These end up being about 45,000 words just on Nebraska football. So if you've ever picked up Slaughterhouse-Five or The Great Gatsby, that's about the same length as one of those small novels. So you get a lot for your money, and yearbook price. If you're thinking about getting a single copy, go to the subscription route. You're almost there anyway with the price of a single copy. So we encourage people to do that. Some really great stuff coming up in this year's edition. Mike Babcock got a lot of time with Barrett Ruud. They are both big Grateful Dead fans, which plays a pretty big role in that story. That one was really cool. I had a ton of fun reading that. Jacob Padilla, we know him as kind of a basketball savant. I mean, he's of course good at everything we do, or everything he does. But he recently took in that charity game in Elkhorn and offered a complete basketball breakdown of Nebraska's football players, and I'm excited for people to read that. I laughed out loud multiple times while reading the first draft of that story. So those are two of the features you can look forward to. I'm going to hold off on mentioning any others to not spoil some of the announcements coming next week, but beyond that, position by position breakdowns, and then of course team previews for all of the Big Ten and the non-conference opponents that Nebraska has. So plenty there to get you ready for August 27th.
The ultimate road trip with Babbers and Rudy, and they jump in the Babbers mobile and they're just cranking out Grateful Dead bootlegs. Can you imagine? Apparently Rude has 500 burned CDs of just Grateful Dead concerts. So it's not I like the Grateful Dead, I put on their stuff. It's no, he's serious. Yeah, it's beyond putting on their stuff, right? I mean, and that's cool. I mean, that's because let's be straight. We all knew the kid in high school that put on their stuff, but didn't. Oh yeah, that's great. That's the Grateful Dead on your radio. They did Touch of Grey. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Elijah's a lot of the you weren't that kid, were you?
Grateful Dead stickers on their car. I'm gonna say probably not. Don't have the sleeve of 500 concert tapes. So.
Exactly. Elijah, you a Grateful Dead guy or no?
Not particularly. No. I had a roommate who was a big Grateful Dead fan, and for fear of making anybody angry here, I remember listening to it from across the way from his room and being like, I'm not sure what's so special about this.
Oh, that was well put. Vogues, enjoy. Give Junior a fist pound, and we'll talk next week, bud.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks a lot.
There he is. That is good stuff. I can't wait for the yearbook, and Jacob Padilla is very on point and accurate with his assessment of basketball recaps. So his basketball takes on Husker football will be pretty good. Quick time out. We're on the road this weekend here in Kearney as the Remax Silverhawks in a tournament. We'll talk some baseball, some football, and even a little Heat basketball with the Iron Horse. Gary Sharp is next. It's Hail Varsity Weekend, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Like what you hear? High-quality radio and podcast is part of what we do at Hail Varsity. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we produce. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Glad to have you back.
Yes, sir. You heard me right.
Here are the guys, Schmidt and Koenig.
Well, Hector, here's the game plan. The
to bring us 2 absolute martinis. You know how I like them, straight up. And then precisely 7 1/2 minutes after that, you're going to bring us 2 more. Then 2 more after that every 5 minutes until one of us passes out.
Excellent strategy, sir.
Great to be back with you. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're talking to Jill. She's running away. She will not come on camera here. That makes me sad. So it's a good weekend here. We're in Kearney. We have baseball at 5 tonight. We have a tea time at 10:10. And the Iron Horse, no doubt, is still smiling about his Miami Heat. We say hi to Gary Sharp. Sharpie, good morning, bud. Thanks for the time.
Hey, good morning, Schmidt. Good morning, Elijah. And hello to the Archway in Kearney, Nebraska.
Yes, we drove by the Archway, and Aaron was wondering if, Carson wanted his picture by the arch. I cannot repeat on air what his sentiments were, but no was the answer. And when we kept on.
Have you ever been up in the arch?
No, man. I've driven by it 1,000 times, but I've never been in it.
It's pretty cool. Like when they first opened it, I went to a little ceremony, and I've been back since. It's it's very unique. I think I encourage everyone one time to go up and go into the exhibit. But it's it's kind of neat to stand over the interstate and look down. I mean, you out of towners that drive by go, what is that? But it's it's unique to the Kearney area, so I'm good with it. You should make a pit stop on the way back.
Yeah, my fear with that is we'll get out, Junior and Mama will run, I'll be on the arch, and they'll leave town, and I'm stuck. Sharpie, a lot going on. I want to start with Husker baseball, and with all the weather that's happened, I mean, it's just been a wet week for Lincoln and for Omaha, and deep into the night, I had Michigan and Maryland on before I dozed off, and it's just a bit hollow for Nebraskans to get the Big Ten tournament yet again at TD Ameritrade or whatever it's called now, and not have Nebraska there. That's been a challenge, but also you've got a revamped look, man. Coach Bolt going heavy with the JUCO. You're having a lot of departures, including Cam. Chick, Sharpie, assess some of the new names that are going to be coming in from JUCO, and a quick take on the departures.
Well, here being in Omaha where the Big Ten tournament is, and you're finishing a game on Thursday into Friday morning at 2:16. It's getting really no attention. I stopped by yesterday, and it's amazing to think that Nebraska baseball, as bad as this season was, you couldn't make an 18 tournament. I mean, that's hard to fathom. And it is what it is. Nebraska had plenty of opportunities to play themselves up into the standings, and it didn't happen. And now you have a tournament going on, which is really when Nebraska – the only reason that the tournament is here is because Nebraska set an all-time attendance record, and the Big Ten doesn't want to have this tournament somewhere else and bad attendance. Well, we're seeing. I mean, thankfully Iowa is still alive because there's a lot of Iowa fans, but it's not well attended. But Big Ten baseball isn't a priority, and that's unfortunate, but that's been the case whether Nebraska's been in this tournament or not. The season was not very good. I don't think Will Bolt – well, I'm not going to say I don't think. I know for a fact Will Bolt did not like this team. And I think it was probably about a month or 6 weeks into the season that he thought, the makeup of this team, not necessarily on the field but off the field, is not where I need it. And we're not developing leaders. We're not finding those guys that have the edge that really carried us last year. And, it was just a snowball. They were their own worst enemy. Throughout the course of the season, they just could never gain any consistency. And I think as the season went along, Will said, I'm never letting this happen again. And so he started to change his roster along the way. I mean, look at all the junior college players that are coming in. And he loves the Nebraska high school player guys. But I think it hit him that not all Nebraska high school players are ready to play right away. You're not running them out, but they're not ready to play right away. And relying on them when you have some depth issues is probably not the best-case scenario. So he's going to be an older roster next year, still with Nebraska kids. But I'm not surprised that they're having departures. I'm not surprised he's brought in junior college players. I wouldn't be surprised that no one else should be next week when there are more players and maybe some players of note that are departing. Will's not going to stand for this again. He knows this was a bad season, and he's fixing it. So in 23, they can reach his first goal every year, and that is to host a regional.
Gary Sharp's with us. Hail Varsity Radio weekend here on the road in Kearney at the Crown Hotel just off the interstate. Gorgeous setup. Sharpie, excellent info on just kind of the what was with Nebraska baseball. When we, in your opinion or with your insight, not liking a team's one thing, and then kudos to Will recognizing what was it about this team? Was it commitment? Was it baseball IQ? I mean, if you had to circle the biggest elephant in the room with this team, what was it?
Well, I think let's start on the mound. You felt fairly good beginning the year with the pitching staff, but you can't lose due to injury the kind of amount of innings that you were going to lose. I mean, you thought Kyle Perry was going to be your number one, and before you have the time to open up your eyes and embrace the season, he's already on the shelf. So I don't think they were built to encounter all of the injuries they had with arms. And then they just never got consistency 1 through 9. I think their infield was in flux, trying to figure out what's going to happen at first base, trying to figure out what's going to happen at second base. They defensively, where I think a Will Bolt team will shine, this was not a very smart defensive team. I'm not talking about errors, but I'm talking about hitting the cutoff man, making the simple play. It was just a combination of things that just continued to add up through the entire season, and you could never get out of your own way. Now, with that said, Nebraska almost got into the Big Ten tournament, but they had so many opportunities that they can't blame anybody else, and Will's not doing that. He's blaming himself and the entire program for not getting it done. It's just you now have to say, okay, I'm never going to live through this again. And this is a moment in Will's coaching career. He's never had a losing season, that now he gets to change this roster on the fly to erase this result this year. So that's what I'm excited to see, because there's going to be a lot of things happen, with the baseball program, what they're going to do with Haymarket Park, all of those things. I think this is an important offseason for Nebraska baseball, but I just want to prepare people. Next week there could be more departures, and there might be a couple of guys that had key roles this year that are gone. But it also is going to go back to last year and how special that was for Nebraska baseball. You had not only some very talented players, you had some guys that this was their moment to shine, and they were going to knock down that door, and they played with a chip on their shoulder. Can they regain that chip when they won't be the favorite like they were this year?
Gary Sharp's with us here, Saturday morning edition, Hail Varsity Radio. And Gary, offensively with this Husker baseball team, do you think next year is going to mark more of a return towards that Bolt ball that we're so used to from last season and from previous years of Will Bolt, where it's a little more station to station, steal some bases, generate some runs? At times this year it felt like the offense was reliant on the long ball, which isn't something you usually come to expect with a Will Bolt coach baseball team.
Yeah, and I think that's where they kind of morphed in, because they weren't a great base running team. They weren't great in executing little things. I don't know. That's an interesting question, Elijah, because if you look at the players he's bringing in, especially junior college guys, Zach Johnson, who's a Millard North product, who hit 21 home runs. They're bringing in some guys that are known for hitting the long ball. I think what you're going to see is a lot of gap hitters. I think this offense will be better tuned, and I think I think you'll also see a Max Anderson. Max Anderson at points looked like Max Anderson. At other points, you're like, whoa, what happened to that guy? I think as they build the lineup kind of around him, he will be better protected, and so he will have better opportunities at the plate where he's seeing different pitches where teams can't hit around him or take advantage of him.
Gary Sharp's with us. It's Hail Varsity Weekend. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Sharpie, to football we go, and just a monster week for Nebraska with the portal, and then, of course, the recruiting trail continues to stay hot. Nebraska, a huge weekend for Friday Night Lights this upcoming weekend here to start June off with a number of in-state kids. But a thought with Wynn, my friend, and then, of course, Washington, and they're still not done. I mean, next weekend's, depending on what happens in Arkansas, the JUCO kid from College of the Canyons in Nebraska. Tell me this: what's your math look like for Nebraska with their roster? Because they continue to add. I have no issue with that, but you got to be at 85.
Well, I don't have a fear of that, because I think there are some players that already know they're leaving, and they're going to leave as grad transfers. that you're gonna find out when you get closer to the start of camp, because they're finishing up school right now. So I have no fear that they'll get to 85. It wouldn't even surprise me if they got maybe a scholarship under 85 when all is said and done, but they will be at 85. We like to do that in the media, Schmidt. But I think Nebraska's in a good spot. They know who will not be here in the fall, that they're already preparing for that. In terms of adding Wynn, it's going to be interesting. Can they play him straight up as a zero tech? Can he slide outside? What are they going to do? I think it just keeps reiterating that Nebraska is going to morph back into a 4-3, play more 4-3, play more of an even front. He's a big body. It's kind of you're waiting to see, because the narrative changes when you lose a player, how you feel about him compared to when you felt about him on your roster. And we see that with Wynn. We don't really know a ton about Wynn. He wasn't able to really move up the depth chart, but he played in a really good program that's known for defensive linemen, and he made a business decision. He wants to go to the NFL, and Nebraska gave him the best opportunity to go to the NFL when he's playing against Big Ten offensive lines. So I'll be curious where they play him, but I think it just keeps adding when they're continuing to pursue Lewis is the guys behind him have not developed as quickly as they thought. Now, are those guys in trouble of being processed out? I don't know. But they haven't developed enough where they can say, okay, we made it through spring. I like where we're at. No, they said, oh, yeah, I hear you, Ty Robinson. You said you got to go get us some help. So we're getting help. Now, with Washington, I don't know that wide receiver was a position of need, but the more skill guys that you can have, that helps. It also, I think, helps. Marcus Washington has familiar with, of course, Casey Thompson, and he'll be able to slide right in. I don't think he's a replacement, one-for-one like a Betts or a Torrey, but he can be another addition in a room where you want to get to 9. The thing I think you have to look at a Wynn or a Washington, whenever you're adding guys, are they better than not necessarily the top-end guy at that position group, but are they better than like your 3, 4, 5 guy? And I think I can look at Marcus Washington, maybe known more for blocking at Texas, had some issues with drops, but he will flash once in a while. He's probably better than your 4th or 5th wide receiver on the roster right now, so that's a good pickup.
Gary, you mentioned the Stephon Wynn pickup signaling possibly a return towards the 4-3. Do you think, if that is in fact the case, do you think if Nebraska moves to the 4-3 this season, is that this coaching staff adjusting to the Big Ten, or is that them adjusting their defense to the personnel they have this year?
No, that's a good question, Elijah. And if you look back at last year, Nebraska played more of an even front. They might have come across and said, hey, we're a 3-4. But if you watch a lot, there were plenty of times where they played a 4-3. And I think it goes back to something Eric Chenander said. He was on my show. We did an interview right before spring ball. They're now, this will be the 5th time through the Big Ten. So they're getting a familiarity, especially in the West Division, with offensive lines and how they attack, put guys in space. So what gives them the best opportunity to stop a run game, a downhill run game, or the tight end game is a 4-3. And Chins has alluded to looking at a lot of NFL film like the Philadelphia Eagles and what they do up front. So I think it's more of a, okay, we can play 3-4, but I think our best with our current personnel is to play a 4-3 to give us a chance to be good up front.
Sharpie, we were talking about Fleck and the popularity contest when it comes to what you do on the field versus what you're perceived to be off the field, and his extension, his win total, impressive. Is Fleck more respected, or do you think he's tolerated? What's your take on him, and what's your vibe with some of the other the coaches you've bumped into and have some insight to? Where's his likability meter, I guess, in the league versus respectability?
Well, I think if you're, there's some coaches that are going to roll their eyes at his sloganeering and the other things that he does, but I don't think anybody should roll their eyes at his results, and I especially around here, because he's been able to beat up Nebraska, and he's looked good the last couple of years against Nebraska, and he's built a foundation. I mean, give him credit. They have built a strong foundation, but this is a key year in a lot of different ways, because guys, look at the win totals. They're anywhere from 7.5 to 8.5, and Nebraska's in that mix. So that basically tells you the West is going to be a grab bag. It's not has a dominant team. Wisconsin doesn't, look at you and go, hey, we're going to run away. But Minnesota is there with bringing back a former offensive coordinator that was able to get peak Tanner Morgan, I don't discount Minnesota at all. I don't look past him. I don't clown PJ Fleck. He may rub people the wrong way, some of the stuff he does, but you can't argue with the results. He's got a good football program. Remember last year when they lost to Bowling Green? Everybody thought, here they go. They've got injuries. They're going to fall apart. What did they do? They played really good football, and they got to 9 wins, including that win against Nebraska. So he's built a really, really strong foundation. It's when they get the pieces and the players, and they've had some NFL dudes, they can flash. But I really think the West is super intriguing this year because I don't see a dominant team. Yeah, there's Minnesota, there's Wisconsin and Iowa at the top. Then there's Minnesota. There's the kind of mystery of Purdue, what they'll be able to do defensively. And then, of course, Nebraska kind of hangs around. So it's going to be an exciting year in the West. But Minnesota, I think, will get a little run to win the West.
Gary Sharp with us, the Iron Horse, Hail Varsity Weekend Roadshow in Kearney this weekend for Remax Silverhawks baseball. And we'll be back at it after the holiday on Monday. Sharpie, best to you and your fan brother, and we'll hope you enjoy this holiday weekend and remember those, of course, that served. And we say thanks to you for jumping on with this, and we'll talk next weekend, partner.
As always, to you and Elijah, thank you very much, and your listeners.
All right, buddy. There he is, Gary Sharp. We will talk to you on Tuesday. Hail Varsity back at you. Thanks for tuning in, and can find us on the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity Radio. Take care.
A Hurrdat Media Production.